DBS community, welcome back to another video. Here with Chris, and today we have another video for the State of the Meta series, which today we're going to be going over blue. So make sure you guys like and subscribe, hit that bell for notifications so you guys don't miss a video. We have some pretty cool things coming for the channel. Once I get everything implemented, I will announce those. We got some pretty cool stuff that will help me out, as well as helping you guys out, and kind of just helping expand the brand a little bit. So with blue, we have realistically, we have one top blue deck, and then we have a few blue decks that kind of fall right below it. Some decks that have topped, and that I think that will hold some power as we go into Nats format. The deck that we all kind of know as probably being the best blue deck collectively as a community is going to be SS3 Reboot. This leader being able to essentially, sometimes once you have the cards on board, being able to restand 6 energy, absolutely nuts. We have the promo Goku, which has been named 7-Ku. There's different, Ku names for these leaders. But this leader is pretty nice. I do like this leader. Having inherent double strike crit and being able to rip your entire opponent's hand away and do some really cool things. The combo is very strong. It's a Goku ramp deck, essentially, which is it's pretty cool. And then you have Gamma. Gamma has still been topping a few events. Still putting in work. I think it has definitely lost a little bit of power. I think Sin sort of counters this deck in a way. So it's kind of fallen from its grace of being probably the best, arguably the best blue deck in the format. Now, to be quite honest with you, I think this is probably what most blue decks will look like going into Nats. Outside of SS3 Reboot, I do think this leader will end up getting banned before Nats. If it does not, and I repeat, if it does not, this is the deck that people should be playing going into Nats. There is, if you are playing blue, this is the leader to play. If you're going to be going into Nats, I think. If it does not get banned, if it gets banned, it definitely opens up the pool for blue decks, just because SS3 just does very well against every other blue deck. And that's where it does very well. The deck, as we'll go here into the actual slide here, the deck stabilizes very well. And the trick is you have to kill them before they stabilize. If you cannot kill them before they stabilize, it's curtains. Like, you're not going to be able to do much to them. Combination of Boo Unison and then being able to restand 4 energy with Boo and your leader effect. It's quite deadly. You have Vegeta Ready to Rumble, which is a card that I could see. It's weird. It's like I could see them hitting it because there are very few cards in the game that interact with this card. But also, I think if they remove this card, it definitely damages these type of blue decks, because this is a floodgate that a lot of blue decks rely on because it's 4 energy and it's very difficult to deal with. In the same vein, it's like this versus Broly Crown as what needs to go, if any need to go. And I think if one of those go and the other one doesn't, that color ends up becoming the more dominant, color going into Nats. And we have SS Son Goku, Another World Blitz. This is a new card from the set. You can play it for 4 if you have no battle cards in the drop area, or you can just tap 6. Draw a card. You can board wipe if you have any extra cards in the drop, and then this card restands itself and an energy at the end of the turn. So now you have a 30k double strike, 30k triple strike, barrier, blocker, deflect, as well as your Boo Unison, and then your leader, and then you're restanding 6 energy. It's quite annoying, which is why I don't think this leader is going to end up seeing Nats format. I think it's going to be gone here in about 2-3 weeks, if not sooner, because we don't really have much outside of no, I guess we have one more set that's coming out right before Nats, but Bandai should give us a ban list. Hopefully, I would love maybe 2 or 3 weeks prior to Nats, just so we can kind of change a few things. But I definitely think this leader is going to end up going. So, but if it doesn't, as I said before, if this does not go, this is the blue deck to play going into Nats. Now, if it does get banned, this ends up becoming the blue deck to play going into Nats. The Reboot Goku, 7-Ku, this deck is phenomenal. I talked about this in the my deck list video. I thought this was the best blue deck going into the format. I didn't really picture SS3 being as powerful as it is, but I thought this was going to be the best blue deck, and I still stand by that because consider Super Saiyan 3 reboot going into next format. I just don't think it's going to be there. Being able to ramp, the combo essentially is that you Beerus, then you can use your Zenos to pick up the Beerus to get a free energy. When you have so much energy, you can play I think it's 9 energy. You can play Turning the Tide, rip your entire opponent's hand away. Then you Kaioken SCR, which then restands all 9 of your energy. And then you can Kale and do other things. And it just becomes very, very difficult to deal with. And as the game goes on, this deck just gains more and more power. This deck has a very powerful Z Awaken effect. It's a good leader. It's a very, very good leader. I think, like I said, this is probably the most... This will probably see the most representation if SS3 gets banned from a blue deck. I think this is just... It's very... I don't think there's anything wrong with the deck. I think it's very balanced. I think it has a lot of good things that it does. There's nothing really wrong with the deck. It's not broken in any way. It has a very powerful effect, and unfortunately there is one card that just completely counters this deck, and it's the Cunning cards, right? Like those cards, they put those cards down. Your opponent has to warp 5 cards for every card that they restand. So it essentially makes their secret rare play useless, so your opponent just can't use their secret rare. So it's weird. It's like that card essentially just shuts off this entire deck. But you know, it is what it is. You know, every deck has its counter, right? So, but again, like I said, I think this is probably the best blue deck if we're not looking at SS3. Then we have Gamma. The Gamma has changed very little since its release, and I think the biggest thing with this deck is going to be how they use their cells. So you have your 4-drop cell, or I guess your 8-drop, 9-drop cell. And then you have the Cell Awakening of the Created, which is your Z Battle card. Now, a lot of decks I've seen have really utilized the 3-drop cell rather than the 8-drop, or vice versa. And I think a good Gamma player is going to be able to balance that out and being able to use both of them to their advantage. Gamma's problem is that Gamma... if you don't see your Unison, Gamma kind of slows down a little bit, and then also if you don't have your Unison, the deck definitely loses a lot of its punching power. It just becomes sort of a one-trick pony where you're basically playing a cell, you're passing, and then you're holding up an Android 14, which is more likely going to get Resolve Renewed or Broly Crowned or counterplayed on your next turn anyways, so it's not as impactful as it once was. The deck still has been topping, so it's hard to say that it is a bad deck, because it's not. And it did get a card from the promo set, and I believe it's going to get some support in set 19 as well. A few cards, which may end up becoming impactful, but we'll see. But like I said, I think Gamma's still up there. I don't think you can count out Gamma. It's still going to be a very good deck going forward, and who knows, maybe we'll see a change in how the deck plays. Maybe it goes to tricolor, you know. Which would be green, yellow, blue. I think there's some interesting things you can do with that as well. Now, outside of these 3 decks, some honorable mentions is going to be the impact of blue-green on Nat's format. You can quote me. I do think blue-green is probably the best multicolor combination going into Nats. I think depending on the blue-yellow stuff that we see from this next set, that it was already leaked a little bit, but depending on how good the blue-yellow stuff is, we're going to have a very interesting multicolor format going into Nats. I think you have red-blue, which is also going to be very powerful with the new Chilled card, but blue-green has some of the most powerful effects in the game. For one, you have the defensive capabilities of a blue deck, then you have the hand destruction portion of a green deck, and that's a pretty good combination. I think I don't think people will be caught off guard as much by blue-green if they're aware that it's going to probably happen at Nats at some point. Obviously, someone like Jared Lopez is going to be piloting Android 16, I'm sure. And obviously that deck, he pilots that deck probably better than anybody will or has. But I think any form of Android deck that is utilizing this blue-green, this also goes for Gamma as well. I think there's going to be a place in the format for it, and I think it's going to be kind of a rogue strategy that, depending on what they go up against, can probably beat some of these meta decks, and really, you know, change what we're going to see in Top Cut, just like last year, where both of these decks topped out of nowhere, you know. So I just something to keep in mind. And one of the big reasons why you should play blue is this card here. Dirty Burst is insane. So against red matchups, this card essentially says go next turn, because your opponent just can't do anything. One of the few cards in the game that stops Gogeta from being able to attack. It's incredibly powerful. This basically allows the blue deck to play sort of a chess matchup with the red deck, forcing them to have to go small, and it's a very impactful card. It works against realistically any color. Yellow, it's probably the weakest against. And when it comes to the four main colors of the format, but every other color this card works wonders in. Just have to get to that point where you can actually play it. So, but this is definitely a reason why you should be playing blue in some capacity. We've seen red decks play blue to utilize this. We've seen green decks play blue to utilize this. So I'm sure we're going to see it going forward. We're going to see this card a lot at Nationals this year. And then some cards to look at if you are playing blue. These are 3 cards that I feel like have very interesting places in the tech slots in a lot of decks. So Energetic Frenzy Kefla. So this is a card that can come out for 3 energy. And then it's an activate main where you draw 2, and then you restand 2 blue energy at the start of your opponent's next main phase. So why this card is good is that it gets around the blue effects, or the blue hate effects, where you get to restand energy on your turn because it's on your opponent's main phase. Draws your 2 cards, and also it's a 25k attacker. So if you are playing a ramp deck, you know, you can actually play this card. So you're not actually playing cards between 30 and 35. I think it's good. I think it's a good card. It's an interesting tech slot. Obviously, there's certain matchups you're not going to play this card, but being able to play a 3-drop for 25k that also can draw you 2 cards and restand 2 energy is, I think, a pretty viable option for most decks in the format. Riot Javelin. This is a card that has seen incredible amounts of spike in price on the market. Being able to remove a 5 or less ignoring barrier for 2 energy. It's pretty good. So basically, this is i.e. Getting rid of the red Z battle cards that have barrier. It's essentially what this card does. And then SS Force Son Goku, Protector of the Earth. Very similar to the Frieza that I talked about in the green deck. When you play this card, your opponent cannot attack the battle card unless they bottom deck a battle card 2 or more. This is pretty interesting. It is not amazing in some aspects, but being able to basically buy yourself a turn, you kind of force your opponent to basically play other stuff, right? They have to now sequence around the fact that you put this ability down, and depending on which matchup you're playing in or which round you're playing in, this card could actually end up winning you the game just because your opponent's going to misplay. This card, and as well as the Frieza Unison, forces your opponent to play perfect, or they will end up, you know, losing advantage. And that's the important part about these cards, that it's not always just like a win more card or just like a, you know, not lose for another turn card. It's definitely about putting that mental strain on your opponent to make them have a higher chance of misplaying, which is really all that you need for, you know, it's really about who misplays first in some cases, and that can end up, you know, costing someone the game. This effect also, you do have the effect of being able to draw 2 and bomb decking a card, or you can clear your entire opponent's board ignoring barrier. Also another good effect. You can play it, -2, wipe their entire board. Now they have to start playing stuff in order to gain value again. So just a card to think about for blue decks. But that is what I have for you guys today for the state of blue. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. As I said before, thank you guys again for all the support, and I will see you guys in the next video.